This demo will use Audrey to launch an application across a multi-instance deployment. We'll use WordPress as an example application. The first instance will be an Apache server, and the second instance will be a MySQL server. At launch time, the instances will need to know about one another to be configured. Audrey will facilitate passing this information between the instances. In addition, we'll also use Audrey to sequence the configuration and startup of services across the nodes. That way the application will not try to connect to the database before it's ready. The image being launched was built including Apache, WordPress, MySQL, and the Audrey agent. I'm going to first launch the deployment in Conductor, then explain what's happening while the instances are coming up and being configured. Here's the two assemblies, Apache and MySQL. There's 3 parameters here. They all have predefined values. There's 3 reference parameters for Apache. MySQL looks very similar. This is the deployable. There's 2 assemblies, Apache and MySQL. Each assembly has an executable defined in it. The executable will not be invoked by the agent until all the parameters have been collected and given to the agent on the instance. The Apache instance needs 3 parameters which we've given values to and has 3 references to the MySQL assembly. Apache returns hostname and IP address. MySQL has the same 3 parameters for the database name, user, and password, and references Apache's IP address and hostname. MySQL returns hostname, IP address, and dbup. Dbup is a parameter that will be defined at the end of execution of this script. This is the dbup fact that will be put in place so that when the agent calls factor, factor returns true for the dbup fact. Because Apache depends on the MySQL dbup fact, Apache's instance will not execute this script until after the dbup parameter has been given to it. The dbup parameter will not be given to it until after MySQL has executed this script. Therefore, MySQL will be up and running and ready to receive connections by the time the Apache script is invoked. This is the script for MySQL. It simply starts MySQL, creates the database, grants permissions to it, sets a password for the user, and then puts the dbup fact in place for factor. This is the Apache script. It edits the WP config file, starts Apache, and then invokes the installation script for WordPress. You can see we're using static admin username and password here. That can be customized using Audrey as well. This is the dbup script. Before it's put in place, fact dbup returns nothing. Once it's put in place, it returns true. You'll notice that the Apache script doesn't reference dbup. It's only being used as a dependency, so that the script on the Apache instance isn't executed until that fact exists and returns a value. Let's check WordPress now. WordPress is installed and configured. And we can log in with the static username and password that was configured. What you've seen here is the use of Audrey to do 2 things when launching an application across a multi-instance deployment. 1, launching 2 instances that need to know about each other at launch time and their information being passed through Audrey for configuration. Second, the sequence of configuration order of the 2 hosts so that the application host doesn't try to connect to the database before it's ready.